All right, welcome everybody to the Real for Life podcast with Jesse and Joe. Catching up after a week. We're starting hot today. You got some you cutting some glass over there, buddy?
Yeah, it's a little nippy in here.
How do you nip through a hoodie and you're wearing a shirt under that?
Oh yeah.
What does that look like when you take your shirt off? Do children try to nurse?
Just the young ones.
Oh man. How was your week?
A little chaotic.
Huh?
My cook flipped his car off the road and was slightly intoxicated. Was not leaving here. He was leaving another bar.
Okay. Good to
And
clarify.
he was driving back to another employee's house. And the other employee, they were following each other.
Mhm.
And the guy just disappeared. So the dude turned around to go find him, and he was flipped end over end off the road in the country and hit a pole.
Is
The
it
car,
snowing?
it was raining really hard. And
Okay.
in Mount Spokane area, there's no lights. You can't see shit.
Yeah.
And obviously he was slightly intoxicated. But yeah, he fucked himself up. He has a lacerated spleen,
Ooh, shit.
broken ribs, broken shoulder from like the seatbelt. Luckily, be alive. If I showed you the car, like he should be dead. And this was on a Sunday. He was like, "I can go to work Wednesday." I'm like, "No, you can't." I go, "Dude, we'll figure it out."
That is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk to you about today. So that's actually refreshing to hear. I'm super sorry that the guy got in
Look
an
at this car.
accident and all that.
Can you see that?
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll be to work Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for him. And you've had terrible luck with cooks. But
Well, it's a different breed.
yeah. But the fact that he's like, yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday. That's awesome.
Right. And then on Wednesday, he started peeing blood. And he was like, "Well,
Well, the first thing I wanted to rage on today was just like you're talking about your cook. I got in a huge accident. I'll be back Wednesday. That is increasingly more rare.
that is totally fucking rare now."
So you know that I'm as a CrossFit person, I'm required to talk about it at least 5 times a day.
I'm glad you're not vegan anymore because that was annoying.
I was never vegan. I was vegan for like a month. I tried it for Scott, and it was fucking terrible. And then I saw what Scott was eating because he's vegan. It was terrible. Everything he was eating was like ridiculously processed.
Yeah.
Just like I wouldn't feed my dog what he eats.
Right. If you're gonna like eat salads and shit and care for animals, like eat salads and shit, but you can't just live off refried beans.
Yeah. I mean, he eats good stuff too, but the snacks that they eat is like, you know, like when somebody says they're vegan, there's like Oreos are vegan.
Yeah.
It's like every processed sugary food is like, it's vegan. It's fucking healthy, bro.
Dude, I'm friends with this chick on Snapchat. She's an old employee.
Mhm.
And she's one of those people that like gets really heavy set and then loses a bunch of weight and then gets really heavy set and she just bounces back and forth. There's no consistency.
Yeah.
And she's back into the gym. She's lost like I think 30 pounds, but she's doing the keto thing. And like so she'll record in the morning like her breakfast and she's like, see, eating healthy doesn't have to be horrible. And it's like eggs and like 10 pounds of cheese and mayonnaise. I'm like, you're gonna fucking die of a heart attack. Like
It's called ketosis, Joe.
right.
As soon as
You
I
don't know
enter
what
ketosis, I'm losing weight.
just sour cream and cheese. I'm like, yeah. What a joke.
I kind of want to try. I want to try a month of carnivore. We just bought, Sprinter Chris.
Yeah.
So his sister raises cows. It's actually a pretty genius racket. So ever since Yellowstone came out, everybody wants to own like a couple cows.
Naturally.
So what his sister does is she gets cows from auction, like the cute ones, like with big long hair,
Right.
and she raises them until they're like able to live, and then she sells them for a shit ton of money to like rich people that want to have like 1 or 2 cows.
Yeah,
Like
as pets.
she could raise it for beef, but she sells them for a huge profit because these people don't know you can just go to an auction and get a cow for like way less, right?
Right. But it's cute
So,
and has a name.
yeah. So we got 142 pounds of beef, you know, pure grass fed, straight from the farm. And we made our first burgers the other night, and it's like, it tastes different. It's insane.
We do a pig every year, and it's the best bacon and best pork chops. Like you, and then yeah, once you go back to store bought, you're like, this is fucking shit.
Yeah, we get all our meat from Costco, and you know, whatever, their meat's fine, but most of the meat you buy isn't even from America.
No. So I got a funny analogy. A couple weeks ago, I drove down to Salem with a buddy of mine and picked up that truck.
Mhm.
And so he took his truck because, you know, it's a Duramax and his trailer's, you know, rated and he has nicer shit than me. I would have been like, I'll take my trailer and I'll figure it out. He was not okay with that. Anyways, so he drove the leg down and he goes, but you're going to drive back. And I'm like, once we're towing something, I'm going to drive your fucking $120,000 truck back. That seems fair.
That I've never driven.
Yeah, I've never driven, but cool.
It's a big gamble, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Right. This thing like breaks for you. There's like fucking holograms on the windshield. Like I got too close to somebody and it was like, you're going to fucking die. And it's like flashing at me. I'm like, holy shit. But I'm like, okay, this is a nice truck, whatever. And get home. And then the next day I drove my truck. And I think I drive a really nice truck. And I get to my truck and I'm like, this is the difference between farm fresh and store bought right here. Once you go back to store bought, you're like, this is a piece of shit. My whole dashboard is plastic.
Oh, dude, and it's crazy too. Like, I'll typically, like, if we cook hamburgers at home, cheeseburgers, I'll have 2, sometimes 3. I'm a big boy, but I had 1, and I was done. Like, it's more filling. It's insane. So, long story short, fresh from farm. It's good stuff.
I will do store-bought chicken though, because I've had fresh, like farm chicken.
Mm-hmm.
It is fucking disgusting.
You know, and I think I'll agree with you. That's the one area where I'm like, yeah,
well, because the store, just all the fucking steroids, all the fucking salt. Like,
I want a chicken that's never walked more than 3 feet.
Nice and tender, dude. Yeah, they're like tough little fucking fillets of tasteless nightmare. Like, I'm like, how's a chicken taste gamey? So gross.
Oh.
We bought like a few pounds and I threw it all away.
Yeah, that is the one place where you'd probably rather just get a nice processed, you know, steroided up.
Right. I figured like if he's eating steroids
for chicken, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. Pump me full of steroids, I'll be fine. I don't even have to buy them from the fucking black market.
I know. Yeah.
Which is another.
Yeah, you go.
The fucking test thing. It's such a bitch to get. Like,
why? There's a shortage right now.
Oh, dude. And like every 6 months, I got to get a full blood work done. I'm like, dude, I've been on tests for fucking 6 years. Like, why do I have to do this every 6 months?
You can go through my buddy if you need to.
Well, that costs a lot more money.
No, it's way cheaper. Actually, no. It's about $100 a bottle for 10 ml.
No, see, I pay prescription, so it's like $13. It's just a hassle.
You're also paying for blood work every 6 months and a doctor's visit.
Right.
Yeah. Right. This skips all of that.
It's stupid. And then you feel like a junkie every time you get in. You're like, and they hand you your prescription and you're like, can I get some needles? And they look at you like you're stupid. I'm like, you're a pharmacist. You know what I'm getting. You think I'm going to
never have them?
No, I'm not drinking it.
Everybody gets their stuff off of Amazon now. So yeah, for those who don't know, me and Joe both are in our 40s now. We're on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
You have to be.
Absolutely. And most dudes aren't, and it is the dumbest it's youth in a bottle.
Yeah.
And there's no negatives as long as you're staying below 2,000. Like,
yeah, I jumped that once. That was bad. And I wasn't even angry. Like I figured I'd be like pissed off all the time. No, I wanted to fuck like 5 times a day. My wife hated me, but other than that, I was like, I'm doing good.
well, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of studies out there. Like, male testosterone in America has dropped 50% in the last 30 years, particularly since the year 2000. It's
Ironically,
been
female testosterone has jumped 50%.
yeah. Well, when I got tested, and I'm pretty much a brute man. I'm, come on.
Totally. Yeah.
But yeah, right.
If you were
But,
gay, you'd be the bear for sure.
No, when I went and got tested, not only was my testosterone low, like the range of normal is between like 300 and 1200 or something like that. I was at 294 when I went.
I was like 180 something, and my doctor was like, "No, you're good." I'm like, "What?"
Well, yeah. So I went and got tested. I'm at 294, so I'm like right on the edge. Luckily, they gave me some, but after being on it and just getting, because my goal is not like to be high, it's mid range. So if normal's between 300 and 1200. I strive to be at like 800. 800 is perfect. And it literally, like, there are so many situations, mostly relationships, that I look back on where I'm like, I'm pretty sure I had low T.
I know you have your entire life.
I've dated some smoke shows, and I've been a once a week kind of dude since I was 21.
Which is insane.
Absolutely insane. Now I'm 42. And if it's once a week, I'm pretty upset. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
If I skip a day, I'm pissed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I tell her to go take a shower and get the fuck out of the bedroom because I'm going to have some me time.
Yeah. Yeah. TRT is the shit. And with everything that's in our food and everything else, like if you're not at least getting tested, because it's so easy nowadays. Like the guy I work with, I heard about him on a podcast, Drinking Bros podcast. I love that podcast. And he's in North Carolina. And I have a phone call with him every 3 months. We discuss how it's going. And he just, renews my prescription. I get the TRT in the mail. I get all the syringes, all the needles, everything one-stop shopping. And the coolest part about it is this guy's got hundreds, maybe thousands of patients, right?
Oh, yeah. He's fucking loaded.
That's all he does. Every time he calls me, every single fucking time, every time, I'll answer the phone. He'll call me like, "Hey, what's up, doc?" And he's like looking through my chart. Every time he's like, "Oh, you're the guy with the hot Asian pharmacist wife." So we have
takes good notes.
Yeah. Well, no, it's hilarious because we've got like some mutual friends because he knows a lot of radiologists, and his wife is a hot Asian radiologist.
Oh.
So we get, there's the white guy, Asian chick bond.
Was it his second wife though?
I don't know. I think it's like typically when you see a white guy with an Asian girl, you're wondering like, is she imported or was she born here?
Well, I was just going doctors, most doctors that aren't Mormon end up, fucking a nurse.
Yeah. No, I don't know if it's his first or second wife. All I know is like it's weird. There's like a almost bond or an understanding of like white dudes with hot Asian wives.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, I was having a conversation the other day with my wife
Not
and
creepy at all.
Her best friend, and I was like, dude, I'm about to get a mail order just to fucking wake up, she can clean. It's just, still have my wife, but then have a mail order as well.
Dude, we were just talking about that last night. So we're watching this show. It's a terrible show. It's called Farmer Wants a Wife.
Never heard of it.
Oh, dude, it's terrible. It's a dating reality show where they take 4 farmers and they each get 5 girls apiece, and the girls are competing to like marry them, basically.
Okay.
And it's hilarious because you've got one guy who's like he's a first generation rancher. He's basically just some dude that made a shit ton of money on the .coms, and it's like, well, I'll just buy a bunch of land in Tennessee, or no, this guy's in Colorado, and make myself this badass farm and get a hot wife, right? But then you got this other guy who's out in the middle of like Oklahoma where it's always windy and dusty and there's not a mall for 2.5 hours. And he's fucking dirt poor. He's a potato farmer.
Oh, so he's a real farmer.
Yeah. And there's like 5 girls competing for him. And you're like, this is not fair. But anyway, me and Tana are watching this and I'm like, you know what? Maybe the Mormons had it right. Like, this guy's got 5 chicks. It's not bad.
We still use it as a punchline. So years ago when you were a liberal and the farmers get subsidized and we got in this argument and you said that all farmers are rich. And I just laughed my ass off. So every time me and Katie, and this was probably 10 years ago, we pass a farm that with like the collapsed barn and a trailer and like 80 fucking broke down cars. We're like, oh, he's rich.
There are rich farmers.
There are rich
farmers,
but the majority are not.
Right. But there's also a lot of people that start that lifestyle when they've already made their nut.
Well,
like that's what if I won the lottery, like, yeah, I would be a farmer.
But most of them are generations of farmers, and that's just been handed down for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And they just hold on to the land.
Yeah. Which is fine.
The way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you got a topic point. I can see you squinting.
I'm looking at my phone here. So basically the premise of this show is me and Joe talk once a week. Typically we call each other for 10 minutes every day. And instead of doing that, now we're just waiting the whole week. So I stack stuff up. So I got to tell you about this new employee I have. This he's like basically like your new age Gen Z guy, like very clean cut, you know, like he's a sneakerhead.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally a thing. And I've never had a friend that was like a sneakerhead, like a legit one.
Oh, my son is. It's insane. There's like an app. It's like the stock market, and he buys and sells shoes, and like has a stock of shit. It's nuts.
Yeah. Oh, it's insane.
The reason I'm wearing what I'm wearing right now is because this is 100% what he wears. This is Nike Tech hoodie with a Nike Tech jogger sweatpants. And I'm wearing Nike Air shoes. So comfortable though.
Yeah.
I mean, I look homeless. Well, this outfit was probably $800.
It's an entire underground market. And I didn't know about it until 2 years ago. There's a house in my neighborhood that like just always super badass brand new cars, ballin' ass house. Whenever their garage would open, you would see just tons of shoe boxes. So they were running an online, like basically market for sneakers, and they were selling counterfeits.
Oh,
one day, like 6 cop cars came. It was a huge deal. It was all over the
an embarrassing thing to get busted. Where do you even, I mean, China, obviously, but
they were Asian. Yeah.
I was just saying the shoes, not them.
Oh, well, I don't think they were Chinese. I don't know. They were super Asian, though. So, anyway, so this dude that just started working there, he comes in the other night and he's wearing these, like, I'm assuming they're new. They might just be super clean, but like brand new Air Max, bright red, and he's walking funny. And I just straight up asked him, I'm like, dude, are you walking that way so you don't crease the toe box?
Oh, absolutely.
And he was so excited. He's like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. So we start kind of talking about shoes and stuff. And because I've wanted a pair of Air Jordan Retro 6s forever. My grandma bought those for me in 4th grade. She spent $110 on these shoes.
Yeah, and they're probably worth 600 plus or something stupid.
They are, but you know how dumb that is when you're living in a fucking single wide.
Right.
And you're spending 110 on shoes. This is a big deal back then. And I've wanted another pair ever since. I've never gotten them yet. Anyway.
My mom bought me flip-flops. Well, they were slides. And I was super stoked because I thought they were Adidas's.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a name brand.
Uh-oh.
No, they were Adidas's. 2 P's. My first name brand shoe growing up were British Knights. That
It's
is a
hilarious. Like, neither of us grew up with money, but my grandma had this saying. She was like, "School's hard enough. Kids shouldn't have to worry about not, having name brand stuff." So me and my brother, for whatever it's worth, we always had good clothes. At least we had that.
Yeah,
So,
I had the Cherokee jeans and my British Knights.
oh, geez. I gotta tell you about this dude though. So,
Okay, sorry.
he's worried about creasing the toe box. He's all excited when I notice it. The next day he comes in, he's wearing these badass fucking Air Jordans, right? And they've got the BOA system. So like instead of regular shoelaces, they got like the metal cables,
Right.
just like your snowboard boots.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, those are badass. Where's the twist style? He's like, oh, there's no twist style. Motherfucker clicks his heels together twice.
Shut up.
They light up underneath and you hear a little motor and the fucking laces just release.
That's some Back to the Future shit right there.
It was exactly. They're the shoes from Back to the fucking Future. So then it clicks his heels twice. They light up and they tighten back up. I'm like, holy shit. I was like, where's the battery? He's like, there's no battery. It's internal. They come with a fucking wireless charger that you sit the shoes on.
Oh my God.
And then I'm like, so I'm blown away. And I'm just like, dude, what did you spend on those?
$1,000.
He's like, no, not even close. I was like, dude, what did you spend? He's like, dude, I got the fucking killerest deal on these. I got these for $550.
I still wouldn't do it, but
I wouldn't do it.
But
it's super gangster.
And I can imagine wearing shoes that expensive. You walk in them.
Well, that's what I asked him the next day because I was also talking to Sprinter Chris. So Sprinter Chris's wife works for Nike.
Right.
They just have a shit ton of shoes. And I was asking him about it because he's, his wife can get whatever shoe she wants. And he was like, oh yeah, dude, the sneakerheads are insane. You need to ask him about dead stock. So apparently sneakerheads will have what's called dead stock. And that's their shoes that are like, have minor imperfections, maybe a couple scuffs. That's what they wear in public. And then they have their private stock. This is shit they don't fucking wear, right? And then they also have treads. So it's basically like saran wrap for the bottom of the shoe. So like you can't tell it's there, but it protects the fucking tread.
I mean, that's ingenious.
Yeah. But I talked to the guy at work and he was like, I don't keep dead stock. He's like, I like wearing them. I spent a shit ton of money on them. I fucking wear them.
We bought my kid. We went to Disneyland last year, I think. Mm-hmm. And we took a road trip, Griswold's family vacation. And we a month or two before we went, we were like, hey, we're driving this route. Find out where you want to stop and we'll stop. And my kid, that's the sneakerhead, was like, I only want to go to this store. And it's in Hollywood. I don't remember what it's called, but everybody that wears shoes, ask your fucking new hire. He's going to know the store. And it's called something it's called like Awesome Shoes or something stupid.
It's the store that was in the show Entourage.
Probably. And
you
walk in
for some badass shoes. And Vincent Chase, he took Vincent because he was hoping to get him to the front of the line. And Vincent was like, no, we're waiting in line, bro. I'm not getting you to the front.
I remember that episode now.
Yeah.
So it's super clean. Everything is like white and granite. And then there's like glass shelves with all these fucking shoes. And some are used and some are new. No, they're all fucking used. So like, that's the shoe. There's no boxes. There's no nothing. You just walk up and that's the shoe. And hopefully it's in your size. So we also gave them kind of like a budget of like, we're going to spend about this much. We didn't tell them that, but like, this is how much money we're going to spend on each kid. And so I walk away. I go, dude, there's a bar up the street. It's been a long road trip. I'm like, I'm going to go to this bar, and left him and my wife in the store. Fun side story. My other kid chased after me, which I was unaware about. And Hollywood is not a fucking great area at all. They
love kids there.
Yeah, they do love kids there. It's a fucking shithole.
Very affectionate.
Anyway, so I walk into this bar. Oh, actually, I had to take a shit. That's what happened. But then while I was there, I was like, I'm gonna get a beer. And so my kid comes in this bar and sits down. And my old kid, he's 14 at the time, but he's got like a goatee. So he sits down with me and I'm drinking my beer. And the bartender comes over and is like, Can I see some ID? And he's like, no. But there's nobody else in there. And they're like, okay, just finish your beer and get out of here. I was like, fair enough. So it was hilarious. Anyways, go back to the shoe store. They're checking out with the shoe purchase.
How much did you spend?
So these are Air Force Ones, which everybody's seen. They're a dime a dozen. Air Force Ones, white,
readily available because they're at the store. These are not new releases.
They're Air Force Ones, but there's a tag on them, and it's the size of like the Vans logo, not the logo, the little tag they put on Vans shoes. It's tiny.
Yeah,
It's like this big, and it's
Half inch
red,
by 1 inch. Yeah.
and it says Supreme. That's the
I
only
don't even
difference.
know what that is.
It's just
I don't even know what Supreme is. What is
they're
it?
Air Force One Supremes, $350. And he fucking wears them to school. I'm just like, and he wears them to my house. And I live in the country and there's a lot of mud. And he'll just like walk. And I'm like, shoot.
That's insane.
But we sold them. I go, you're not getting anything else on this trip.
Yeah. But anyway, so here's what meeting this guy and hearing all of this made me realize. You remember back in the 90s when like it was like a stereotype that like in New York, if you stepped on somebody's shoe, you got shot, and everybody was like, why would somebody shoot you over scuffing your shoe like it was a respect thing?
Right.
I think it was just because they were really fucking expensive shoes.
Yeah.
And like if I was wearing the Back to the Future shoes with the heel click technology,
Oh, I'd lose my mind.
I would be fucking pissed if somebody stepped
And that's
on
why I
me.
love Chucks, because they're supposed to look beat up. If you're wearing clean Chucks, you're a dipshit.
Well, Debbie, who I work with, she's a fashionista,
No shit.
big time fashionista. She spent $1,400 on a pair of pants once at work. I watched her buy them. So she was showing me these shoes the other day that look like shit. They're skateboard shoes. They look like old skateboard sneakers, like tennis, whatever.
Right.
And their logo is like a star, but it's all bedazzled.
Like the more you know.
But they look like shit. They look like they've been worn for like 2 years. They're brand new, pre-worn out. And they're charging like $400 for these fucking shoes.
So Zoolander had it right.
They did. Gary Lee. Absolutely. But it's kind of like, of course, I think that's stupid as shit, right? But it's one of those things like people who know are going to know. It's the same as my Jeep. Like if you looked at my Jeep, you'd be like, that's a 94 Jeep Wrangler. It's a piece of shit. It's worth no more than $1,000. But somebody who knows Jeep parts is going to look at it and say, oh, look at that. It's got 37s, Atlas transfer case. It's got JK axles under it. It's, he's got at least 25 grand into that thing.
It's got 100 grand under the hood.
Yeah, it's got 100 grand under the hood. I'll win. Me and my dad will cruise off together.
Speaking of which, mutual friend of ours from the skating days. We're not doing names. So he's a plumber and he drove the Back to the Future Toyota truck. You know exactly
And
what I'm
the
talking
Corvette.
Yes.
That I got to sit in. I got to sit in that Corvette one time, and he did donuts behind Magnolia Hi-Fi.
Right.
Fuck, it was
and
cool.
He was 10 years older than all of us, but hanging out with 16-year-olds. Just saying.
And he was still dating chicks younger than me.
Anyways, so he has this M3 and he gets it wrapped every once in a while. Sometimes it's lime green, sometimes it's gold, blah, blah, blah. So something breaks on it. I don't know what broke on it. Maybe he got in a wreck. Something's he just posted this on Facebook and he's pissed off because the insurance company is only going to give him $10,000 for his car.
It's an old M3. That thing's like a 96.
Right. But I started laughing because he legitimately said, I've got $100,000 under the hood. And I was like, bro, like he said it. And he didn't say it like as a joke. He said it.
Did you ask him if he was going to race wars in the desert? Did you tell him Hector is running 3 Civics with spoon engines and Motec system exhausts? Wow.
And you're racing a Jetta. But anyway, I didn't comment at all. And I
They
just
made 10 of those fucking movies, Joe. They're still going.
God, it's so bad.
It's terrible. I knew all along a Dodge Charger could definitely pull an 18-ton bank vault.
Yeah,
No
full of money.
Yeah,
easy.
no problem.
Well, apparently the 10th when they go to space.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go to space, you're probably going to want to use a car.
Right.
You know, everybody knows that.
No, we did a little mini vacation with the casino, and I put on Fast 8, I think.
Okay, I quit after 3. Tokyo Drift was the best
Oh,
one.
Tokyo Drift is the best one ever.
Hell yeah.
The first one and Tokyo Drift are the only ones that matter.
Yep.
Anyways,
Insane.
I think it was Fast 8, and I fell asleep, dude. It was so bad.
I can't do it, man. You really want to get depressed? Vin Diesel made a song. It's on Spotify. If you've ever questioned about his straightness, maybe just give that a listen.
Is it worse? What was the Baywatch dude, David Hasselhoff? Is it worse than his music?
Way worse, because David Hasselhoff, he's going for his German audience.
Right.
He is fucking God in Germany.
Right.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah, so he makes German geared music. No, the Vin Diesel stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Didn't know. I'm gonna have to give it a listen.
Yeah. Don't listen to it with your family. Oh man.
Fucking Vin Diesel.
So
I only took one note in the last 2 weeks for the show.
Okay, let's hear yours. I got about 4 more.
And I was intoxicated, and I thought it was such a good note. And then I read it this morning. I was like, not a good note. All right. So this is the note. And I'm going to explain what I wrote down. Fucking drunk. Portland, music, MGMT, clubbing, free and fun, 2000s weird and fun.
That's
so what happened?
Lot of stuff.
So what happened was, which I shouldn't be admitting, I was drunk and I was driving home,
mm-hmm.
and MGMT came on.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, and I immediately went back to Portland. Because when you first moved down there and I traveled for work, I spent a lot of time with you, you know, hitting bars. And we didn't go clubbing, but we went to a lot of bars and like the social life of it.
Well, back then, Portland, it wasn't about clubs. There was live music at least 20 bars every night.
Right. And it was awesome. And everybody was cool. There was, it was just like about hanging out, having some beers with friends. And
Portland pre-woke era.
Right. And it was just chill. And that's what the note was. It just took me back 20 years ago. And I'm like, I missed that time. It was so much fun.
It was a fucking good window of time.
Right. That was my one note.
No, it was a good window of time. And it, you know, because it was after a really weird window of time. Me and you both had a couple really weird years there. Like between the military and, you know, basically meeting our wives. That was a weird time.
Well, right. And I'm assuming most dudes go through that time of like, you know, I'm single and what am I doing with my life and work stupid jobs, buy an S2000.
Well, I had to buy that car, Joe.
Did you have $100,000 under the hood?
No, but I owed $100,000 on it and it was worth 40. So dude, I traded cars so much back then. My final situation.
Awful.
Sorry, I got a little fun. In the end, I was driving STI, Subaru STI, that I only fucking bought. The only reason I bought that car is because you had a WRX and I wanted to one-up you.
Yeah, and you would never race me. And why?
Because your car was faster. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So here, you know, I just thought of the perfect analogy here. So it didn't matter if your car was faster because mine was an STI. You can dress it up as much as you want. You can get your wife the biggest fucking fake tits in the world. But if my wife has some natural D's, I win. That's the STI argument.
But she doesn't. And you
No,
just
my
have
wife's got my wife's
you just have a
got
pink
box.
sticker that says STI on it.
But it was an STI, legit.
So when I sold that car, so I blew the tranny. I miss that car so much. I tried to convince my
Are
wife
you
to
still
buy
talking
one.
about the car?
Huh? Yeah. But I was trying to convince her to buy one because it's a sedan. I was like, dude, this is a family car. So I was boosting 25 pounds.
You put
Which is-
25 PSI through that?
which
Holy
is
crap.
way too much for it.
Oh, hold on for the audience. Joe, was that car an automatic?
The first one was. The second one wasn't. The first one was
The
automatic.
black one was an automatic.
But so what's funny is I only owned that car for a weekend. But I remember it like I owned it for a long time. But I only had it on a weekend. So I bought the car on like a Thursday. Maybe it was a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I had it a week. But anyways, so I buy the car from like Liquid Auto, whatever the fuck. And they call me and they're like, hey, we're having trouble getting financed on this car. And I was like, why? I've good credit. There's no issues here. And they're like, oh, well, it's a salvage title. And I was like, oh, well, that's illegal that you sold me a vehicle without telling me that. They're like, okay, well, you just return it and we'll call it, square. I go, okay, well, I don't have a vehicle, so I'm going to return it Monday. They're like, that's fair. I'm like, okay. So I cut the return tube off to the turbo, so it sounded like it had a blow-off valve.
Nice.
And then I took it to the ORV park and rallied the fuck out of it. And there's Jeepers out there just like doing slow Jeeping shit and going through mud things. And I'm in this WRX just fucking balls to the wall, jumping it. And I never washed it. And I returned it on Monday.
Dude, you'd be amazed what a car will do if you don't give a shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And I handed them the keys. They're like, you're a fucking asshole. I was like, have a good night. But no, my WRX, the one I got after that was a manual. And I blew that shit up real quick. But point being, that's the first vehicle, probably the only vehicle that when I sold it, I made money off of it.
Oh, that's never fucking
It never happens. I
Yeah.
sold it. This kid called me from Bellevue. He was like 18. And he's like, I'll be over tomorrow to pick it up. And I was like, sure. I was boosting so much that you couldn't start it. You had to start it like it was carbureted. You had to pump the gas.
It's basically like having a big cam and an old 350.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And so I never turned off the car when he was test driving it and everything. And so we go to the bank to do the paperwork, and then he turns it off. We go in. I get it into my girlfriend at the time's car, and I watch him try to start it. And it's just like, I was like, peace. He'll figure it out. It ran fine.
Well, you told him it was running 25 PSI.
Well, I had the gauges too, but yes. Dude, that thing fucking ripped.
What's the nicest car you've ever driven?
Nicest car I've ever driven.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the Denali I just drove, 120 grand.
Yeah, it is pretty nice.
I mean, when I was 18, this is a segue right back to doctors fucking nurses. I was dating this chick that worked at a tanning salon, and I was in the military. So I went to the tanning salon a lot because when you live in San Diego and you don't have a tan, everybody knows you're in the military. And so she drove, and this is when Mini Coopers came back out.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's a fucking gangster ass car. So I told her that. And so she's like, I've never met this chick ever. And she was just there for tanning. And she goes, oh, you want to test drive it? I have 20 minutes on the bed. Just be back in 20 minutes. I'm like, are you serious? And she goes, yeah, I'm a nurse and this doctor bought it for me. So like, it's a cool car. Right. So I fucking took that thing out. I went 150 in it.
Holy crap.
And
I didn't know they did that.
Funnest car I've ever driven. All the toggle switches, all the gauges are huge. So much fun. It's so little though. When you're at a stoplight, you can't see the stoplight. You have to look over at the right-hand side little stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
I get back. She goes, "How fast do you go?" I go, probably like 90. She goes, "How fast do you go?" I go, 150. She goes, "Good for you." And that was it. And that was the last time I saw her. She just let me just rally her fucking car.
Jeez. That's insane. So Steve, Sweaty Steve.
Yeah.
So back when I had the STI, me and him both went to the same person to get our haircut. Now this is back in like
Faux hawk.
06. So yeah, oh yeah, faux hawk all fucking day, right? Diesel jeans. And this hairdresser was a smoke show. But a haircut cost $40, and then you had a tip. So every time we got our haircut, it was basically $60, right?
Right.
So I go in to get my haircut, and she's a good hairdresser. She knows how to lean down and like accidentally rub her boobs on you. And she looks out the door and she's like, "Oh my God, I love that car." I was like, "Oh yeah. Yeah, that's my STI." And she's like, "Yeah, I know that car's fast." I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty good." And she's like, "No, that one's fast. I drove it last week." So Steve had gone to get his haircut.
Oh my God.
Fucking claim the car was his and let her drive it.
And that is Steve as fuck right there.
Oh, that's definitely Steve.
When he had his driving gloves and his driving shoes.
I'm pretty sure Steve does own driving gloves. Yes.
I know he does.
They're like foreskin thin, like super thin leather, perforated, of course.
Are you knocking on my door?
Can I tell you about the nicest car I've ever driven?
Yes.
It's a tragic story, dude. It's fucking tragic.
Oh, hold on. Keep going.
All right, hold on. No, can you hear me?
You're killing me.
Can't even hear me. Quick beer break.
I know. I love you. Love you too.
Joe records at his bar.
Do a podcast in the bar, they said. All right.
All right. This story is fucking, it's awesome. You ready for this? So, way back in 09, maybe a little later than that, but around that area, I worked with I'm an x-ray tech, so I'm shooting x-rays. I lead the shift or whatever. Good buddies with this radiologist. We'll call it, his name's Dave. We'll just go with Dave. So Dave is the kind of, he's like basically like 50, 52.
I already know the story, but keep going.
He's wearing like the acid wash jeans with like the white belt.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of affliction going on, right?
Right.
So he ends up getting divorced. He gets divorced on a Monday, comes in on Wednesday. "Hey, dude, you want to come check out my new Ferrari?"
I thought it was a Lambo, but yes.
No, it's Ferrari. Brand new fucking Ferrari, right? Super badass. And like, this guy just got a divorce. How the fuck is he affording this? So, of course, I ask him, and he's like, "Oh, dude, fucking payments same as my Toyota Highlander. With cars like this, you can get 15-year financing. No problem." So I've driven some fucking nice cars in my day. I had the Honda S2000 in 2002. So they were only a year old at that point. That was a baller fucking car. I had the STI. I had a Coupe de Ville.
I still see that car, by the way, in town.
The S2000?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking badass.
Because he still has the sticker
that.
What was it? The 3-letter S.
SBW, Skate Barn West.
Yes.
He
still has the sticker on it. Probably thinks it's something racing. And he still that little stupid rear window thing. He still has it on there.
Yeah, that's a rollerblade park, bro. But anyway, so this radiologist, he gets a fucking Ferrari, divorced on a Monday, Ferrari on Wednesday. He's like, "Dude, let's go get coffee." So we're fucking rolling down the street. It's a convertible, by the way. And,
Actually.
Oh, of course. Like, he bought this car for a reason, right? And like I said, I've driven some nice cars in my day, and you always think that if you have a nice car, it's going to get you laid. And then it never fucking happens. Like, that's a total myth.
I actually proved you wrong on that one.
Until you're in a Ferrari.
S2000 Taco Bell. Continue.
Thanks for that, by the way. You're a good man. Yes. That was a good night. Anyway, so yeah, so we're on the way to coffee, top down, two fucking, you know, stereotypical white dudes in scrubs driving a Ferrari, right? Nobody knows I'm not a doctor.
Right.
And 5 times in 3 blocks, we had girls roll down their window and just be like, "Oh my God, I love your car." We even had like one like pushing 300-pound black woman roll down our window, like, "Hey boys, how you doing?" Like, this car got a shit ton of attention. It was fucking awesome. So we go get coffee and we're on our way back to the hospital. We're walking to the car and he throws me the keys. I'm like, "Dude, I'm not fucking driving this. I'm not risking that." He's like, "Oh, you're fine. You're fine." So I'm driving the Ferrari. It's fucking amazing. And then I take a right turn towards the hospital that I've taken probably 500 times at this point. I know this turn. Turns out she's a big girl. She's wide, right? And I kiss that rear wheel right on the fucking curb. And I'm just like,
Nice.
oh shit. We get back to the hospital. Somehow there's not a single mark on the rim. I have no idea how. No clue how I got through this. Not a mark on the rim, not a mark on the tire, nothing. Next day I'm going to work. I drive by Les Schwab and the Ferrari is up on the lift and the rear tires are off of it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I passed by that Les Schwab the next 2 days. It was still on the fucking lift.
Oh, fuck.
finally, I go to the radiologist and I'm like, "Dude, what did I break? How much is this going to cost me?" And he's like, "Oh, dude, no worries. It had a flat tire. It just burped the tire. But I wanted to get new tires and there's like specially made. They don't have any in stock, blah, blah,
Of
blah, blah,
course.
blah." But it scared the shit out of me. Like, if you can't afford to wreck one of those, don't have it. Oh, and then you know what he says? He's like, "Dude, don't worry about it. You should see what my bartender did to the front end when I let him drive it." I'm like,
Oh
"Dude,
my
quit
God.
fucking letting people drive your Ferrari."
And bartenders are always drunk.
Here's the second part of that story you never heard. He ended up getting remarried a year later.
Oh, too soon.
No, there was an X-ray student who was literally only going to X-ray school so that she could prepare herself to support herself because she wanted to leave her husband. Right?
Yeah.
So her
Nurses and doctors.
husband was an airline pilot, so she got to fly everywhere for free. Right? Super debutante. And I'll be gosh darn if she didn't narrow in on that radiologist. And they got married real quick. She drives a really nice BMW. To her credit, though, she still does work part-time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm. Yeah.
And with wrecking the nice car analogy of working on them, like that's the issue. Like I want a Porsche, like super fucking bad. Like that's my dream. But
Mhm.
all those foreign cars, every time you go to the mechanic, they just fucking bend you over.
I know. Somebody I work with, Debbie, she was taking her dad's car in to get some stuff done. And basically it needed like a new prop shaft, is what they call them, instead of a drive shaft on those.
Okay.
So on the drive shaft, there's like this little piece of rubber between because it's fucking Mercedes. Like there's no suspension travel, right? So they don't have to worry about the drive shaft contracting,
Moving,
expanding, and all that bullshit.
right.
So instead of having like an actual joint, it's a solid mount, but they put a half-inch piece of rubber between the transmission and the drive shaft. It's called prop shaft.
Okay.
They were going to charge her, I think it was like $1,700 to replace the gasket. And I went on to Amazon. I was like, the part's $160. Like,
Which is still a ripoff.
still a ripoff. It's a fucking piece of rubber.
Right.
But she paid it. But that's the beauty of YouTube, right? Like you can learn to do anything on any vehicle on YouTube nowadays.
Oh yeah.
I just installed an amp in my truck. Like me and you have done some big stereos in the past. And I've never fucked with amplifiers because there's too many wires. The whole remote thing going to like a AC source and all that. It's a pain in the ass. But when I went to Car Toys and I was looking at the amp, they were like, yeah, it's going to be $400 to install it because I was using the stock head unit. So they
Right.
have to like tap into that. And then it was $400 in labor. I was like, I'm not paying that. I got this.
Did you actually do the tap in?
I did. It was honestly, it wasn't bad. All I had to do was find the wires going to the rear door speakers, find the color
Right.
of them, tap into those, run those back to this adapter thing that adapts them to RCAs.
Right.
Right. I had to run a fucking shit ton of wires, but I got it all done. And I wired it in a way to where I wired it to my auxiliary switch panel. So like if I use my remote start to let it warm up in the morning, the bass doesn't turn on.
Okay.
It won't turn on until you put the key in the ignition and you press the stereo button.
Oh,
So if I'm
nice.
listening to a podcast or something, no bass at all. But if I want the bass, I just press one button on my switch panel and it turns the amp on.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super badass. So, but it's another one of those things where like it's set up fucking primo. I ran a shit ton of wires, but if it weren't for YouTube, I never would have done that. Like when we were in high school,
I was
you never
figuring
would have
out.
done that.
Right.
Here's the other thing I noticed. This setup that I've got two 12s underneath the rear seats. And they're both shallow enclosure 12s. So it's
Right.
like it's stealth as shit. If you don't know it's there, you're never gonna know it's there. But it's two 12s. Like it bumps. The only thing I'm actually paying for is I'm going to go back to Car Toys and pay them just to tune it because I don't know how to do all that gain and hertz and all that bullshit. It's a pain in the ass, dude. There's a lot. I'm basically running two amps in a series, and it just confuses everything. So, where was I going with that? Wiring.
YouTube.
Oh yeah. You know how with engines they say like you can put turbos and superchargers and all that, but there's no replacement for displacement.
Right.
Same thing with speakers. I'm running two 12s, shallow enclosure with a 1200 amps going to it. They're 1200 watts. Pretty powerful. When we were in high school, I had two 10s in the trunk with like a 600 watt amp, and it beat the shit out of this system because it was in a band pass box and it basically took up the whole trunk.
Right.
So like you can run big speakers, but if you don't have enough box, worthless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in Joe fashion, we should end every episode in Joe has to pee.
All right, we can end. I'm pissed, dude. There was like one more thing I really wanted to talk about, but
what is it?
I tried to say earlier that the CrossFit, there's a CrossFit athlete that is basically just super Gen Z, right? So you know how everybody's about self-care and take care of yourself first and all that?
Right.
So I caught a lot of shit from my wife and some friends and stuff a couple years ago when they gave that
the Olympian.
The Olympian. She got a fucking medal from the president because she quit. She was like, "Oh, I got the spinnies. I'm just not gonna go out there."
Right.
And everybody was like, "Well, and don't get me wrong, this girl's like the fucking baddest ass gymnast of all time. She's awesome." Yeah, can't remember her name right now. Do you want me to pause it? We don't have that ability. Just go pee.
Seriously?
Just 2 minutes. Let me tell my story. It's 2 minutes, and then we'll end the podcast. All right. So anyway, so the Olympian is like, basically, I'm not going to compete because I just don't feel in the right headspace. And they gave her she didn't get she got an Olympic medal because her team won, but she got a presidential medal for that. Right. So now we've got this CrossFit athlete, Mal O'Brien, who was my pick to be the top of the leaderboard for the women for the 2023 season. And right before the season, she was like, I'm going to take this season off. She's 20 years old. She's like the next big thing. And she's like, I'm just going to take the season off. And everybody was like, well, maybe she thought she was going to get popped for steroids or something. So she doesn't want to get tested or something.
Right.
But she was just taking it off for mental care. And everybody praised her. It was this, oh, congratulations for being aware. So then she just released a video this week. She's taking this year off too. And she's like, oh, well, I'm in Hawaii and I just feel so centered. I'm not going to compete this year. I'm just going to take care of me. And everybody's praising her. And so I left a comment on there like,
Oh,
I
boy.
remember when we used to celebrate athletes that overcame adversity, that rose to the occasion. Brett Favre won a fucking playoff game the night after his dad died. He came out and he played and he kicked ass. And nowadays, every single comment in there was positive. Next day, I look in there, my comment's been erased. That's why they're all positive.
Right.
Yeah. But this is 2 years in her prime. She's taking off. And she's like, I just want to thank my sponsors, the ones that are staying with me that realize the importance of this. So like all you have to do now is get like mid-pack and then be like, I'm going to take some time for me. And people praise you. It's fucking bullshit. If we have another world war, we're fucking losing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's bullshit. People
There's no
are
safe
soft.
spaces.
I know. It's fucking insane. Anyway, I want to rant about this forever, but you look like you got to piss. So we'll cut it this week. And for our 8 listeners out there, stay with us. It'll get better.
I feel like that was a solid show.
That was a solid show. I'm going to have to listen back to it because I had a lot of stuff I want to talk about. We didn't get to any of it. I feel like the podcast is not as good when you talk because I'm a narcissist. But
I just went full Bert half the show.
well, I want to talk about that too, but we'll save it for next episode. Till next time, this is a Real for Life podcast with Jesse and Joe. Like, subscribe. Don't be a host. Share the show.